Hey, how's it going, everyone? This looks like a good moment to record this week's astrology report. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for listening. I hope you can get a lot of use out of it, and I hope I can say something helpful about it as well. Um, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Um, Before we jump into this week's report, I'm sure you've already heard about it, or this week's astrology, but I want to look at next week because or the new moon specifically, actually. The chart for the new moon is really interesting. This is the new moon in Virgo. And we have so many interesting things going on. Every planet is in an aspect in this chart, which you don't always see. And it's a new moon chart too, which is so interesting. The moon themselves, or the moon, is at this trine to Uranus with the sun. We have all the outer planets retrograde. All the inner planets are within about, how many degrees is that? Like 45 degrees. Mercury will be in Libra at that time. Mars is trining Pluto. Venus is trining Jupiter. And the sun is trining Uranus. And the moon is trining Uranus all on the day of the new moon, on September 6th, Monday. So we have a lot of dynamic energy playing out at the same time. The difference between, Pluto and Jupiter are very different, right? We have these two inner planets making an aspect to them. But, these are planets that we put in totally different categories, right? But they're all interacting together, which is so interesting, right on top of the new moon. Say, sometimes we talk about how beyond Saturn, the planets beyond Saturn, they have a different nature. And then Pluto seems to be of its own nature. And then Uranus and Neptune kind of have their own thing going on. At least that's kind of how I think about it in my mind. So I generally draw a lot of distinctions between these planets, point being, but they are definitely playing an important role at this time. Mars is active, destructive, hot, fiery, aggressive, energetic, irritating, frustrating sort of energy, right? And Pluto is a hidden, sort of dark, focused, committed force, or system, or whatever you want to have it be, right? It's like that domain of like things being very intense, or the intense critical element being there. But Venus is also at the trine to Jupiter, right? Jupiter retrograde, and that is the two benefic planets making a connection so close to the new moon. So while I think that we can see like the craziness, or like the fighting energy sort of beginning to play out, like, so when we actually get into the report for this week, I know we're making a total digression on the new moon for next week, but it's just such a nuanced chart that I kind of want to like start picking at it before we get to next week. But this week, point being, that we have to talk about the Mars is opposite to Neptune. So we have, point being, Mars opposite Neptune, and then on the time of the new moon we have Mars trine Pluto. So we're coming out of this confused, diluted, drug state, right? That will be playing out this week for a lot of people, and like the passion and the aggression sort of coming, like having a sort of a standoff with that diluted, drugged, voided out sort of experience that people are going through. But anyway, we'll get into Mars opposite Neptune when we do. But I just wanted to bring this up because also Venus is square to Pluto in this chart, trine to Jupiter. So I don't know. You couldn't make it up. There's no making this stuff up. Okay, but anyway, very interesting. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's very like the powers are flowing very easily. Like when you have the trine aspect, like those are energies within the same element, right? So you have, um, you know, Mercury and Saturn are doing a trine in the same element. Venus and Jupiter making a trine in the same element. You have the moon and the sun and the planet Uranus also. So there's a very easy way for that energy to flow, and a new moon signifies a time of renewal or like the final stripping away of something old and like letting go of that so that the new seeds get planted for something new to come about. So I think in terms of like great change is happening in all different contexts. This is a very good chart for that because everything is signified by the planets. So there's going to be so much change coming out of this new moon next week. I think that's the brunt of what I mean, or I feel I need to communicate about that. All right. So to come back to today, I guess, or to Sunday, we'll start the report. You have the sun making the T-square to the north and the south node, and the moon making the square to Jupiter, the moon making the trine to Mercury, and then the moon will go into Gemini all before noon, right, on Sunday. So I think in the morning, it's kind of like so the north and the south node, like it signifies a time when the sun is eclipsed, or like the times being between the eclipses, right? So like the eclipse energy is sort of in the mix, right? And we have to kind of, I don't think it's comfortable, right? Because it's kind of like restless, sort of crazy energy kind of coming through ourselves and other people, right? But I think in the morning we still have an opportunity to get things across, or investigate things, or to look at the details of things analytically really for the last time before Mercury goes into Libra. There's this very nice moment where the moon and Mercury are aligned there in the morning, where writing and mercurial tasks can go about with a lot of detail, right? But as the moon gets into Gemini, the Mercury will go into Libra, the moon will go across the north node and make the square to the sun. So although there are a lot of trines in this chart, it feels nervous. I think it feels restless. So much so much like with the Mercury in the anaretic degree ruling this Gemini moon. I think you can expect like it to be extremely overstimulated, or the details of like things that need to get done in terms of Gemini are very like they're getting made up really fast, right? They're getting they're flitting back and forth so fast. I think it'll even be maybe not like frustrating, but like with Mercury in the anaretic degree there, we have to do all of these details. They have to be finished before the time that Mercury goes into Libra, right? Like it's gonna have to be done. Like all those details have to be I guess manifested before all that. So anyway, but with Mercury on the north node, or the moon on the north node, we probably, since this is all happening in the middle of the night, in America we probably wake up feeling kind of like sober, like with the moon trine Saturn there, kind of like maybe like nervous or restless, wanting to I don't know. I feel like we'll want to find the peace, but also like the social details also all getting their time, right? We have to allow um, we have to allow for all this business to get done. Like I think this is in the middle of the week, right? This is a Monday, so I mean it's a sort of a sober, sort of restless feeling day. I think, although Mercury will be in Libra now, so actually I think towards like in the evening time, like on Sunday night, I think you could feel that, or just after the moon goes into Gemini. But once Mercury goes into Libra, let me make sure I'm not totally messing this up. Yeah, once Mercury goes into Libra, I think the communication will be much more smooth and sort of you know doing what it has to do, right, and doing it well, right. Making sure it gets done right. So I have a progressed Mercury in Libra for the rest of my life, pretty much. So I'm really excited to know more about that by looking at this transit and the Mercury retrograde, because in my chart I will have the Mercury retrograde in my progressed chart. So that's very, very interesting. I was born right before a Mercury retrograde in Libra. So anyway, but I guess it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm interested in that though. So as we get into later on in the day, probably really pretty nice, and even until into the evening. But then after the moon trines to Venus, they will make that T-square to Mars and Neptune, which will not be easy to understand, I think. I mean, so it's like when you have a moon square to Mars, it's like a sort of an aggressive, hot situation that like keeps building up until the time of that that critical moment when the square happens. Excuse me. But with Neptune also there, it'd be easy to feel like, sorry, let me drink something, like overheated, but also like really lost in the sauce, right? So I mean, anybody that's like out drinking at this time will be really messed up, or like it's like a crazy party that on Monday night that goes into the next morning, and it's like very irritating. Interestingly, Venus is ruling Mars now. Because Mercury is in Libra, right? So, and Venus is in her domicile. She's not really being afflicted by any planets. She's applying to Pluto, but that's not really even happening yet, really. So I mean, the softness and like the care of Venus and Libra can really take care of Mars there, which is fine. I mean, but I do think that it is weird, and we do have like a lot of things to fight about that are gonna come out. But we're kind of like, maybe it's like Venus is like dominating that Mars energy now, so I wonder like actually how aggressive that'll be. But it is definitely confusing and weird, and you should avoid this week like kind of getting into any I guess situations that are like too on the edge, right? Or like sort of like getting lost, like caught up in a group mind sort of setting, or like it's almost like when you like, we could talk about America, right? Like the way that people are like in their echo chambers, or they're hearing what they're choosing to hear. We all do it, and it's algorithmically programmed to to do something like that. We don't even know what it does. Um, but like, you know, easy to make a lot of assumptions and be very wrong on Tuesday morning, I think, and that could play out. I don't know. I wonder how that'll play out in different parts of the world because we won't be awake. But I hope that was all clear as mud for you. I hope it was clear enough. So, and it is. We are talking about something unclear. It is like a weird sort of. It's like you didn't do any drugs, but reality is on drugs, and like there's nothing you can do about that. And that's why like you should take care like not to be like anything you did take, or like if you drank, even like especially like if you drank too much, like the there's an extra edge to that, so you should not get caught up in that too. It's like the collective feverishness of an idea or like of a moment sort of takes over. But anyway, I do wonder what that'll be like. I am, because the Mars Neptune conjunction and the square were distinct. I think the conjunction was definitely more pronounced in its effects, definitely more malefic. But this will definitely, like, everything will be like sort of having this weird sort of character for a bit. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. Like I've got Mars in my 12th house, which is my time lord, and that is frustrating. Or Mars is transiting Mars is transiting my 12th house, and it's currently my time lord, so it's not and I've got these other two planets in my 12th house as well right now, so I don't really know. Or like it's like one of the fun things I wanted to talk about the 12th house is it's like the difference between things that are actually secrets, things that are common sense, and things that are common knowledge but no one ever told you about them. And I had another fourth thing, and it's just like the funny relationship that those things have, like common knowledge, common sense, things that nobody tells you, and things that are actually secrets, right? Definitely have a funny sort of relationship. But also funny how the 12th house rules large animals too. I've been having irritating problems with large animals, which is like very, very frustrating manifestation of Mars in the 12th house. But anyway, I did want to ramble a little bit more with this one. It's kind of, I'm allowing myself to do it. But yeah, Tuesday morning, it just like looks very irritating, at least, or very, very like kind of washed out, at least. It'll be over in a moment because it's the moon. But yeah, and then as we go through the rest of the day, I think we get a kind of a pick me up with the moon going through the trine to Jupiter, even though Jupiter is retrograde. Looking at Mercury is coming into that trine with Saturn, and also the trine to the North Node, which Saturn's kind of been on top of. So I do like that we have like Mercury's in Venus's sign. Venus is there. Mercury and Venus would be very angular together in the same sign, in her own sign, which is good throughout the day, right? I feel like we have a sense of stability coming in because of Saturn and Jupiter, the way that they're interacting with the dispositor of the moon, and then the moon with Jupiter. They're planets representing justice for one, for Jupiter, and structure as the other for Saturn. Another thing we need to talk about is the fact that every outer planet is retrograde, so we're not moving forward about things. Things are more internal and focused on, I guess, what we think about them, or how we feel about them, especially with Venus. And the way we think and the way we feel about things are sort of blending together more. Um, and I like that the moon is being disposited by that. Maybe it'll be pretty good. Um, I'm open. I'm open to things being pretty good on Tuesday. But then the moon is would of course off of that. So I mean, I think whatever things were sort of keeping the poor Gemini moon in place, kind of get a little lost as we go on. But as we get into, well, not to say that the end of Tuesday is totally a wash, but it probably just won't be very satisfying, I guess. But maybe it will. Don't let me rain on your parade. I just think it might be raining on your social parade a little bit after mid afternoon, right? But anyway, the moon will go into Cancer on Wednesday, and then make the square to Mercury in the morning. The moon will make the sextile to the sun by the late afternoon. Okay, let's look at that. What is that? The moon's in their own sign, making a connection to Mercury, who's in Venus' sign. Venus is in her own sign, co-present with Mercury. The sun is in Virgo, ruled by Mercury, which we haven't really talked about. That's a very nice thing that Venus really takes over, like kind of takes the inner planets and kind of holds them with that good energy throughout all this. So I mean, maybe I want to see all the bad things. I really do. I really like to see both good and bad, but I'm curious. I'm curious if things actually are pretty good this week. But so yeah, I mean, I think maybe communication is a little bit strange, a little strained. We just kind of, how will that look exactly with the moon in Cancer and Mercury with Venus in Libra? Maybe it's like the moodiness or like the internal sort of sense of comfort we find with the moon in Cancer for the most part. Like it's at odds with like maybe like the sort of outgoing social nature of Libra, right? And so Mercury like maybe is like is like kind of taking us out of our comfort zone a little bit more than we want to with the way things go. On Wednesday, right? Wednesday, September 1st. But I mean, that looks nice, if not a little like weird, as we go into Thursday. Like the moon connects to Uranus, which is a little like Uranus is a little bit like a little bit off kilter kind of stuff going on. And then the Mars opposite to Neptune goes on. So Mars is opposite Neptune, and how angular is that in the middle of the day? So around here it is it's pretty angular. So watch out. I mean, it's just gonna be like weird, confusing times. Probably if you wanted to just stay at home and just sit there, fine. Although, we probably will want to do that, but Neptune will be in the fourth house at that time, indicating a very strong experience that you might have in your house at that time, or you might have. And then Mars is also culminating on the other side, so it's like it's very not a good thing. You want to balance, like sort of like, I don't know, being a little on drugs in your house, right? If that's Neptune in the fourth house, just go with me, right? And then Mars in the 10th house is like the fullness of activity in the world, right? Very contradictory sort of idea there. But with the moon going through the square to Venus. Venus is in her own sign, Moon's in their own sign. I like that. I really do, because they both have equal dignity, and it's a connection to a benefic planet. I don't like that there's a T-square to Pluto. I can't really avoid that. Venus has this thing going on with Pluto. It's going to show up in the other aspects, right? So, really another mixed bag on Thursday, but I think things sort of, we kind of figure out how to work with it throughout the day. It's like, oh, this is going on. Well, I'm gonna set my attitude this way, and I'm going to have this sort of attitude as we go throughout the day, and see what happens, right? Type stuff going on. And as we go into the evening, I think we're somehow really taking action on this Mars stuff and this Neptune stuff at the same time. Or the Neptune thing is really coming in with the way we're trying to behave, or the way we're trying to be driven. Or Mars can also indicate difficult circumstances as well, so I don't really want to. It's kind of, Mars is a much more nuanced planet than only drive, activity, lust, etc. We can attach to Mars, but I don't like that for, in terms of any mundane thing that might come out of that. Does not look fun or good. But setting that aside, you'll just have to work with it throughout the day on Thursday, it looks like. But, okay, all right. So, Thursday, and with the moon in Cancer, it really is like kind of staying at home energy, but like, kind of like, if you are tempted by drugs, be careful, and be, you want to have the ability to not overconsume, right? Mars is also consumption, right? And connecting to the moon and Pluto like that, there will be some people that they will go overboard at that time. So don't do that. Watch your consumption and what you're doing, because it's not a better idea to, just don't do drugs, just go to your job, like go to your job and take care of business. Not necessarily, because you don't really want to be out on the road, or really dealing with the public, or doing anything during this time, in my opinion. So the moon opposite Pluto, it's very uncomfortable and like sort of crawly, weird feeling, right? Not fun. And the moon is void, of course, off of that, or maybe off of Venus, if you like. So, in terms of like Venus and Libra things, I'm trying to give you like the negative, like the negative opinion, right? I want to show you like the potential risks to what you might want to do this week. But in general, on Friday, Mercury in Libra will be making this connection to the North Node and the South Node, which is very strong and useful for getting that message across socially, right? So I think, once the moon moves out of all that stuff in Cancer, which was like, probably not fun for a lot of people, we go into this moon in Leo, where Mercury can be expressed in that way, and you see that building up all day, with the moon also coming into the alignment with the North and the South Node on the other side, and making that sextile to Mercury. So I think social things really happen in a really like grand and like interesting way, and a very like proper way. I really like that. It has like sort of a primness to it too, and a proper seriousness. and that just goes on all day. I really like that. The moon is in Leo, the sun is in Virgo, Mercury is in Libra, Venus is in Libra. I think it goes really well. What day is that? Friday. Yeah, Friday goes so well. It's crazy. And then when we get into Saturday evening, the moon is opposite Saturn. Saturn is cold, sort of restricting, isolating. This moon opposite Saturn stuff is like very isolating. Saturn opposition is like, whatever is opposite Saturn is not. It's no. There's none of that, right? And so, you've known about this, like whatever house you've had Saturn opposing for this time is feeling that, right? And for me, it's the 11th house by equal houses. So, I feel like the blocks or the limitations in my social life and the community life that I have, right? And having, Saturn in a naturally social sign of Aquarius, sort of has made an interesting thing for me. So, there's a sense of alienation. There's a sense of being, outcasted from all of that, right? So, it's kind of like, it's you can always see yourself on the other side of the fence, right? Nobody is immune to that, right? So I think we're kind of feeling like that, kind of going into Saturday, maybe. Kind of telling you about Saturn, but that's, whatever that house is for you is kind of getting hit by the coldness of Saturn and the moon there. But on Saturday, as we go throughout the day, the moon is only making that square to Uranus, and then Mercury is making the trine to Saturn retrograde by the evening time. So, what's that all about? Well, Uranus can be some unexpected, it always is some unexpected developments. And it's like an unexpected development in, it's hard to even predict. Like, we in predictive astrology, like, want to use these techniques, and the traditional techniques that utilize the 7 planets and the 7 traditional planets, they tell you what the content of the chart, right? Very, very logically. But these outer planets, they sort of, in the way that they show up in the chart, sort of defy description, and Uranus in its way, or Neptune in its way, right? So these events that sort of come out of Uranus there, Uranus retrograde there, I think will be, probably setting you a little bit on edge. When Uranus retrograded, I had some, it was like a nervous shock. It was not fun. I really felt sick for like a minute there, or like an hour really. Like, I just felt really bad, and my nerves were very uncomfortable. But anyway, so, but that's kind of it. It's the moon in Leo. We are being real. We are being bold. We are, just with Leo energy, you kind of have to be what you really are, right? And no, you just have to be able to do that, right? And that's, that does take practice. Like, actually, I think if that's something you're doing right now, kind of like taking apart like the like the layers of beliefs or assumptions that you have about yourself or about anything, that can be signified by Saturn, right? Like unpacking those things and like becoming conscious of them can make you free of those things, and I think that's available to you if you want at this time, so that you can really become more integrated with your authentic being, right? And that's somehow like integrating with like how we like, it's like fixed sign energy being, very, very in its own way, right? But some things have to change, and with the moon there in the waning light, it's like being yourself through, through the changes, right? I don't know. I think that there's power in that, so you can find that. All right, so the Mercury trine to Saturn happens at 8:30 in the evening, and that Mercury is Mercury has been in control of a lot of things this week. I mean, he has the sign of Gemini, and during this time also the sign of Leo through the Sun. So there's so many opportunities, I think, to get things across and like to be socially integrated with the way that can be for you right now. I mean, or so, like, I want to say social because of Venus and Libra. The whatever you're seeing that in your life can be playing out in a very I think hopeful way, but it's like more of an internally hopeful way than like you're hoping and you're seeing things come to pass at the time that you're hoping, right? But we are oh I don't know. I guess I lost that one, but with Mercury, I guess this is really the track to be on, rather than what I was saying. Mercury trining Saturn, it's solidifying these messages that you need to get across, right? Saturn retrograde, or maybe we need to know these things about Saturn, about these conditions, about the bad conditions of the world, and having a communication about that, having a discussion, and that being a part of the time that we're in. But on a more real world level, I think it's you're really solidifying the mercurial conditions in your life, right, for the future. Anyway, I mean, that's, we already pretty much talked about that. The moon isn't really even talking about that on Saturday. The moon's doing other things, but Mercury does perfect that trine there, which I think can be very solidifying for your mercurial activities. So as we get into, we'll leave it there. So, but next week, we have this incredible new moon on Monday, which is just wild. Venus goes into Scorpio next week, which will, not be desirable for the most part, because we'll have these Moon, Saturn, Venus contacts, and Uranus contacts, which will be hard. Venus, like at this time that we're living in right now, we can find the value, the satisfaction, the sense of belonging, I think, the sense of community and closeness, even though the world is the way it is. So enjoy this week. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll catch you in the next video. God bless you.